Back to Jersey. This should be good. New Jersey man arrested at mom's house after threatening to kill Florida sheriff deputies. That sweet woman is upstairs cutting the crust off your peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, and you're downstairs spewing hate speech. You're a grown ass man. Wash your hands and get off the internet. A man in New Jersey, we're not claiming him, was arrested after he allegedly made anonymous online threats to kill Florida's Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood. Richard Golden, 38, was cuffed at his mother's house in Monmouth Junction, New Jersey. This is local on March 13th. He still had pizza rolls in the microwave. They snatched his ass so fast. Sheriff Chitwood had recently made statements about a neo-Nazi hate group who have made several unsuccessful attempts at intimidating Chitwood and his family, including a failed swatting of the sheriff's parents' home and harassing one of his daughters, the sheriff's office said in a Facebook post. What folks still fail to realize is that the internet has made the world a much smaller place, and while people might feel comfortable posting whatever they want on all of these various platforms, they are being monitored 25/8 by multiple government agencies worldwide. They're looking at algorithms, they're looking at buzzwords, they're looking at code words. Not too much is going to slip past unless they want it to. In response to Chitwood's stance on the hate group, Golden allegedly posted several threatening comments in a 4chan chat, including just shoot Chitwood in the head. Like, that's not going to flag anything. And he stops being a problem. They have to find a new guy to be the problem. But shooting Chitwood in the head solves an immediate problem permanently. Just shoot Chitwood in the head and murder him. I would love to know how quick that chat room emptied out as soon as he started posting that. I don't want no parts. The statements were flagged by the Central Florida Intelligence Exchange, and detectives tracked the chat activity back to Golden, who was in New Jersey living at his mother's home, according to the Facebook post. I cannot wait to meet him when he gets off the plane, Sheriff Chitwood said in a press conference. One of the first faces he's going to see welcoming him to the Volusia County Jail, the happiest place on earth, is going to be me. He looks like he hasn't seen sunlight in a very long time. He looks like a dumpling before you drop it in the fryer. It's sad the only way to get him outside was to lock him up. When the FBI arrived to Golden's mother's home, his mother told task force members her son stays in his room and is always on the internet. What a shock. And he doesn't work, rarely leaves the house, and is hostile toward law enforcement and the government, according to investigators. She could have been breeding a serial killer under her own roof and didn't even know it. And this is the problem with incels. They're already mad at the world because they can't get laid, so they try to find somewhere else where it's a little bit easier to fit in. And in this guy's case, he thought if he adopted the opinions of the neo-Nazi groups that they would accept him too. Man gets 21 years after crime spree that included carjacking and failed bank robbery. So in other words, he got 21 years for nothing. Even in Dead Presidents, Anthony Curtis got a chance to see the money before they locked him up. A man has been sentenced in a crime spree that included a carjacking, making death threats, and pretending to have a gun in an attempt to rob a bank, Morris County prosecutor Robert J. Carroll said. Whenever I hear about someone pretending to have a gun to rob a bank, I automatically think they got these fingers in a hoodie pocket like this. Don't make me do it. Just put the money in the bag. Howard Parks, 55, of East Orange, was sentenced to 21 years in prison. That's more than a third of the time this man has been alive. Think about that. Following a guilty plea on 3 counts of second-degree robbery for incidents that occurred around Morris County, prosecutors said Mount Olive police responded to a Walmart in Flanders where carjacking had reportedly taken place on April 1st, 2022. The department had received a tip from the South Orange Police Department in Essex County, where officers were working on an ongoing carjacking investigation. Officials said officers said Parks stole a vehicle and made death threats toward the owner. Authorities said he should have just stopped at the carjacking because everything after that is all jail time and nothing else, not even the thrill of the maybe you'll get away. Police later learned that Parks entered a Wells Fargo bank in Flanders at 12:24 p.m., where he pretended to have a gun and handed a note to a teller demanding cash. Prosecutors said the same hand that he writes with was the same hand that was supposed to be his gun. He fled the area without obtaining any money, officials said. The teller knew he didn't have a gun when he took his hand out of his pocket to write that note. I would have went to lunch on him too, put the next window sign up right in his face. While traveling in the stolen vehicle a short time later, Parks became involved in a crash at the intersection of Dover Chester Road and Route 10. Police said after he wrecked the car, he's 0 for 4 at this point. Why not just sit on the curb and wait for him to come get you? It's been over for a very long time. He was apprehended by officers when they located him near the scene attempting to steal another car. Authorities said his sentence is subject to the No Early Release Act, which requires offenders convicted of violent crimes to serve 85% of the sentence before being eligible for parole. He has also been sentenced to 3 years of parole supervision upon his release, prosecutors said. 85% of 21 years is a little bit under 18 years, and that's for carjacking where you ended up wrecking the car and a bank robbery where you got no money. What a way to throw it away. March 20th, 2023, Halfcast 420, episode 420. Let's go. Of course, I have a few things to share with you guys. An evening of reflection. Shall we? Inmates caught at IHOP after allegedly tunneling through cell wall, escaping jail. You had one job. All you had to do was make sure the inmates stayed in. It's not even like they used an elaborate hoax like sneaking out with the laundry hamper or stealing a prison guard's uniform. No, they burrowed out like two convicted gophers. 2 Virginia inmates are back in custody after they allegedly escaped from jail by tunneling through a cell wall. Authorities said somebody should be losing their job. The men, John Garza and Arlie Nemo, allegedly made tools out of a toothbrush and a metal object to help them access untied rebars between the walls of the Newport News jail annex, according to the Newport News Sheriff's Office. Who knows, there might just be a dip in prison violence since the inmates know they can use their shanks to escape instead of using them to stab people. Silver linings. Silver linings. Garza, 37, and Nemo, 43, then allegedly climbed the security wall like a toddler getting out of the playpen on Monday afternoon and made their escape, the sheriff's office said. Authorities said they learned the men were missing during a routine head count on Monday evening. The 2 men were arrested at an IHOP in Hampton, just outside the Newport News early Tuesday morning, according to the sheriff's office. Me personally, after I did all that work, I would have had a taste for something a little better than IHOP. But then again, this is Virginia. They probably fit right in. Hell, give them a week, they probably would have both had jobs there. The sheriff's office said they're reviewing a construction design weakness at the jail. A Newport News facility management and engineering team comprised of personnel and city facilities engineers are reviewing and formulating ways to mitigate the aforementioned facility weakness, the sheriff's office said in a statement. Until all weaknesses are identified and secured, we will not discuss the situation further for security reasons. 2 people just walked right out of your facility, then went to IHOP and got a smokehouse combo, and you don't want to talk to anybody? Let's talk about how these people could have took a hostage, or any number of things could have happened. Let's talk about how you might have to demo the building, or at least come to the conclusion that you can't house inmates there until you figure out how to get it right. You got these two guys just out on the town eating crepes, and you don't want to talk to anybody. Nemo has been in custody since October on charges including credit card fraud, credit card larceny, forgery, possession of burglary tools, grand larceny, contempt of court, and probation violation. According to the sheriff's office, it was not clear if he has entered any pleas. Now, that sounds like prison time to me, and include what he just did here with the escape. That's going to be the ice cream on the Belgian waffle. Garza has been in custody since December on charges including contempt of court, probation violations, and failure to appear. He pleaded guilty to failure to appear and SCCD violation. See, this guy might have just been facing some extended probation and a few more bucks tacked onto his fine. But oh no, since he wanted to follow the guy that's definitely going to prison, he might just have to take that trip along with him. I hope those pancakes were damn fluffy. An Oklahoma man was arrested Monday for asking a mother to pimp her 2-year-old daughter out to him. Police said Michael John Overby, 32, was booked on charges of lewd, indecent proposals or acts to a child and access to a computer with unlawful intent, the Oklahoma City Police Department said. As bad as this is, what's even more disturbing is how did he get so comfortable asking someone this? Of course, this is not his first time making such a request. Was there anyone out there that said yes to him that one time that got him off to the races? Oklahoma man arrested for asking stripper to set him up for sex with a toddler. This is what's happening around us in real time. These are the conversations we should be having. Not every 5 minutes is Trump going to jail. Who cares? They haven't put a handcuff on him yet. They might never put a handcuff on him. Spoiler alert. Can Biden read the teleprompter? Who cares? This is what we should be talking about. People walking around our society with sick thoughts and disgusting intentions. The man allegedly set out on his prevented scheme after meeting a dancer at the Red Dog Saloon on March 12th. Overby texted her shortly after meeting her at the popular strip joint. Court records obtained by Fox 25 show, do you allow sex with your daughter? That doesn't sound like a first-time line. That sounds like a practice, rehearse line. The 32-year-old man allegedly asked. The mother responded that they'd have to talk in person. Instead, she reported him to the cops 4 days later and helped facilitate his arrest. Chestnut Checkers, shout out to this woman for not initially dismissing this guy just out of pure disgust alone and being patient enough to know that he had to get exposed, because if she would have just told him no, he was only just going to keep asking someone until either he got the yes or until he got desperate enough and just went out there and snatched the child. Overby was booked on charges of lewd and indecent proposals or acts to a child and access to a computer with unlawful intent. There has to be a more stiff penalty than that. He's going to have to at least register as a sex offender too, right? At the request of the police, the mother invited Overby to her apartment under the pretense of pimping out her daughter. This is how sick he is. Not for 1 second did he stop to think that he could be walking into a bullet. He could have been walking into an axe chop to the skull, which would have been my personal favorite, or at the very least, a setup by the police. He was just consumed with doing what he wanted to do to that child. I've been thinking about it. You're not going to do anything to physically hurt her, the woman wrote before asking what Overby thought a fair price would be. Overby allegedly showed up at her home Monday, where Oklahoma cops took him into custody. He is being held on $200,000 bail. Let me know, do you think some jail time and some therapy will help fix the hunger that this man has for pedophilia? Me personally, I don't think so. But hear me out. Chemical castration and a full lobotomy, reset his old noodle, straighten him right on out. Illinois carjacker sentenced to 22 years after bragging he'd be out by Sunday. And just like that, turning down that last meal tray for the night wasn't quite the flex you thought it would be, was it? Talk about life-changing news. An Illinois carjacker was sentenced to 22 years in prison after telling officers he'd be out of jail by Sunday during his arrest. Can you imagine waking up on Sunday and waiting all day for your name to be called, only to find out that you're going to have to wait a lot more Sundays in a wake up? In January, Harvey resident Jordan Henry, Harvey is where that woman stole all those chicken wings from the school district, was found guilty of 3 counts of aggravated vehicular hijacking, 2 counts of armed robbery, and 1 count of unlawful possession of a weapon by a felon. Among other charges, the 29-year-old had attempted to carjack a driver outside a 7-Eleven in February 2022 when the victim fled the scene with their car keys. Henry stole their phone and left in his own car. That right there is a lot. And that's not even all of it. I'm surprised they even gave him a bond because who's going to co-sign? Who's going to put their house up? He's not going to court. Henry then carjacked a 69-year-old Uber driver at gunpoint and stole his Volkswagen Jetta, as committed as he seemed to be to something that he's clearly not very good at. You would think he would have swung for the fences, went for the gold star, and snatched the Benz or something. You steal a Jetta, you're going to have to steal another car by the end of the week. And God forbid that man would have had a heart attack during this whole thing. When police spotted the stolen vehicle, Henry accelerated and led the police on a highway chase. Henry's car, yeah, it's his by default now, reached speeds over 100 miles per hour. After Henry's car tires deflated, he crashed into a grassy area off I-55 and fled on foot. Henry punched a canine who followed him before eventually being taken into custody. Hitting the police dog is the same charge as hitting the police officer, and he's just racking him up. Like if he gets 100 Sonic rings, they'll invite him to the bonus round in jail. Before his trial, Henry was detained on a $1 million bond, which I think even if he could raise the money, someone would still have to co-sign for him, and I don't see anyone wanting to take that type of risk. Despite being a repeat offender, Henry reportedly bragged to officers that he would be out of jail soon after his arrest. Armed robbery and aggravated vehicular hijacking are 2 crimes in Illinois where you have to serve at least 85% of your sentence. He got 22 years. That means he has to do a little bit under 19 years. Can you imagine for 19 years a guard asking you every Sunday if this is the Sunday you said you'd be out by? Glasgow also posted a picture with the canine Henry punched. As you can see, he is doing fine. The Facebook post read, "That dog got a chin like a champion." Glasgow described Henry as a dangerous, violent criminal with a laundry list of prior convictions. Henry faces other charges in Cook County. How? He's only 29. This is the rap sheet of a career criminal of the age of about 60, including 2 counts of aggravated kidnapping with intent to inflict harm and 4 counts of aggravated criminal sexual assault. Sheesh. He had previously been convicted of robbery and retail theft. That is a lot of crime crammed into a very short lifetime. And it makes you think if that energy was put on a different path, could he have possibly owned his own business or been the head of a Fortune 500 company? Former Virginia Sheriff's deputy murdered husband while smoking crack, authorities say. Crack has been undefeated longer than I've been alive. We should all strive for that same type of consistency. A former Virginia sheriff's deputy was smoking crack cocaine with her husband when she shot and murdered him, authorities say. Stephanie Mulder, 42, was denied bond at a court hearing Thursday. She's charged with second-degree murder and 2 related firearms charges. What could have possibly happened that could have turned this romantic evening for two, crack by candlelight, if you may, into a nightmare horror story? Authorities accused Mulder of shooting Jonathan Mulder, 33, in their home on February 2nd. Both spouses were smoking crack while their year-old son was at home with them, officials said. According to Wavy TV, Stephanie Mulder first claimed her husband pointed his gun at her, but only one gun was found at the home. Mulder then reportedly claimed her husband assaulted her and she feared he was reaching for a weapon. Aside from the drug-induced paranoia that comes with smoking cocaine, the only other time people fight over crack is when there's no more crack You sure you didn't shoot him for reaching for the last rock? Court records show Mulder obtained protective orders against her husband twice last year. Then she left them after the shooting to live with her mother in West Virginia. She was arrested last week. How are you taking out protective orders against your husband as a law officer so you know exactly how those work, but the only time he was allowed to be in your vicinity is when he had crack? Cocaine really is one hell of a drug. March 24th, 2023, at cast 422, episode 422. Let's go. Of course, I have a few things to share with you guys. An evening of reflection. Shall we?
Oh God! If you've never felt the touch of sweet home.
Arizona Family Dollar employee charged with murder after firing 10 shots at shoplifter who punched him. All Family Dollar, Walmart's dysfunctional kid brother. If I need to be strapped and ready to shoot someone at a job that's not law enforcement, I don't need to be working there. An employee of an Arizona Family Dollar store has been charged with murder after police say he fired 10 shots at a shoplifter who punched him. Kevin Salas Madrid, 24, confronted the serial shoplifter and told him to leave the store, at which point the shoplifter punched him in the face, which knocked off Madrid's eyeglasses, Fox 10 Phoenix reported. Even though the policy on paper for the majority of these retail stores is to not directly engage someone who you believe is shoplifting, you still have a lot of good people who know that it's wrong, and at the rate these stores are closing due to shoplifting and theft, it's like watching someone walk out with your job. Madrid then allegedly pulled out a gun and shot the shoplifter at least 10 times, including several times when the shoplifter was on the ground. Kevin stated he made the worst decision of his life. Police said in his probable cause statement, all he wanted was some sneaker money, some PlayStation money, have a few bucks in his pocket, signed up for Family Dollar. Now he's a killer. In like a lamb, out like a lion. Kevin explained he was struck and decided to shoot, but looking back, he realized it was egregious. Egregious is one word, overkill is another. One employee in the store said that Madrid fired as many as 15 shots and that what was he carrying? And admitted after the shooting that he could not control his anger. Arizona's family reported. Me personally, if they're not going to put at least one person trained in loss prevention in that store at all times, then I'm not going to put myself out there like that. And I say that as an employee, it might be frustrating to watch people come in and steal every day, but I refuse to care more for it than the people that actually own the company. Family Dollar, ride or die. Madrid has been booked into jail on a charge of second-degree murder. The Phoenix Police Department did not immediately respond to a request for comment from Fox News Digital. Fox News Digital reached out to Family Dollar for comment, but did not immediately receive a response. What are they really going to say, though? At the Family Dollar store I used to work at, they were stealing tampons, diapers, perms, frozen chicken wings out of the freezer, ice cream out of the freezer, dog food. They used to steal anything motor oil. They used to steal anything they could get their hands on. What did they used to steal from your Family Dollar location? Man allegedly harassed former West Virginia girlfriend by calling her 815 times in 48 hours. It's an Appalachian love story, kids. The only crime he committed was being committed because if loving you is wrong, I don't want to be right. A man has been charged with cyber stalking after using social media to harass and intimidate his ex-girlfriend. Derek Wayne Bowers, age 44, from Hagerstown, Maryland, was charged on one count of stalking by a federal grand jury in Martinsburg. According to court documents, Bowers harassed and intimidated his former girlfriend through text messages, phone calls, and via Facebook. What did he think? That it was a numbers game? Like it was a raffle? The more times he called and texted was the better chance she had of picking up or responding? In December 2022, officials say he called the Morgan County victim 815 times during a 48-hour period. In addition, Bowers sent the victim thousands of harassing text messages over a several month period. Bowers also used social media posts to embarrass her and interfere with her livelihood. 815 calls in 48 hours is 17 calls per hour. 17 calls in an hour is 3.5 calls per minute. How did this man eat, sleep, or control any of his bodily functions and expect this woman to find that charming? Cyberstalking is a pervasive problem that we treat very seriously in West Virginia, said United States Attorney William Illenfeld. I encourage those who are being intimidated online and who suffer substantial emotional distress as a result to file a police report so that wrongdoers may be investigated and held to account. She was his girlfriend, so if he is doing this now that they're apart, imagine how he was acting when they were together. Terrible. Sometimes you gotta do a moral inventory. If convicted, Bowers faces up to 5 years in prison. A federal district court judge will determine any sentence after considering the U.S. sentencing guidelines and other statutory factors. Who knows, when he gets out of jail, maybe he'll get a gig as a telemarketer. Calling people about their expired car warranties, dial till his fingers fall off. Virginia woman convicted of drugging, fatally shooting her two daughters in a plot to get revenge on ex-husband who was leaving her. We were told that you shouldn't get someone pregnant just to keep them in a relationship, and you shouldn't have someone's child just to keep them in a relationship. So with that, when things don't work out, if things don't work out, you should not be directing your anger towards the children. That is nasty work. A jury in Virginia convicted a woman of killing her two daughters and rejected her insanity defense as prosecutors said the case went well beyond merely having a mental illness. Officials said on August 5th, 2018, Veronica Youngblood, 37, shot 15-year-old Sharon Castro and 5-year-old Brooklyn Youngblood and then called her ex-husband to tell him that she killed the children and she hated him, the Washington Post reported. These are the actions of someone who was severely depraved and heartless, who cared nothing for these two little girls' lives, and at the end just wanted to use them as tokens to get back at her husband who wanted to do nothing but get the hell away from her, and rightfully so. While Veronica was leaving a message for her husband, Ron Youngblood, her teen daughter, who was shot in the back and the chest, called 911 and told them her mother shot her. Sharon died at the hospital, and Brooklyn was pronounced dead at the scene after being shot once in the head. Damn. During the trial, prosecutors said the murders were vengeance against Ron, who was planning to move to Missouri and take Brooklyn with him. Prosecutors stated Veronica bought the gun used in the murders days before the sole purpose of killing her daughters. She then gave them sleeping pills before shooting them, officials said. So she just tried it with the insanity defense to see if they would fall for it. This was clearly premeditated. She knew exactly what she wanted to do. Veronica's attorney, Dawn Budarak, argued that Youngblood was from Argentina and grew up in poverty and was physically and sexually abused by family members. She said Veronica became a sex worker, which is how she met Ron and married him in 2009. In her closing arguments, Budarak reminded jurors that Veronica told investigators that she was guilty and wanted to die. Her sister, Myra Coxaba, testified that Youngblood was hearing voices and practiced a South American religion that believed they could communicate with the dead through rituals. I don't know if that was some last ditch effort to try to add a little bit more padding to her insanity defense. But if something is speaking to you and telling you to do harm to somebody, especially kill someone, either you need to hurry up and get help or you need to just stop listening because whatever's talking to you is not your friend. Prosecutors argued that Youngblood is spiteful, selfish, vengeful, and calculated. I believe that more than I believe she was hearing voices, and she does this for her own personal gain, officials said. Youngblood was found guilty on 2 counts of first-degree murder and 2 counts of felony firearm use last week. The jury is currently deliberating on a sentence, but prosecutors argued for 2 life sentences, and Youngblood's attorneys recommended the minimum sentence of 46 years. WUSA reported. You see how this plays out, whereas there might have been a chance for her to reconcile with her husband somewhere down the line, or become friends, or at the very least meet each other at some common ground. But through her selfishness, for her claiming to not want to be alone, she threw it all away, and now she's going to have to spend 46 years in prison alone. Veronica did testify during the sentencing phase and seemingly blamed her ex-husband for the murders. No accountability. First it was the voices in her head. Now it's her husband. WUSA reported. She looked at him in the courtroom and said, "Why did you leave me? Why did you leave me alone with the girls? None of this would have happened." I don't believe that one bit. I believe that if she would have been able to successfully include him in her plan, she would have killed him too, or we would have been looking at some sort of murder-suicide situation. What do you think? Father who mistakenly called dumpster company thinking he was hiring a hitman to kill his adult son gets jail time. First off, there is no such thing as hitmen. But if there was, they wouldn't have a company phone line. An Ohio man who mistakenly called a dumpster company in an apparently drunken and failed attempt to hire a hitman to kill his adult son has been sentenced to more than a year behind bars. Dempson Ramsey, 58, will spend 18 months in jail after pleading guilty to aggravated assault charges in connection with calls he made to Budget Dumpster Company in October, Cleveland.com reported. You heard right, folks. Calls, as if not getting through on the first one wasn't a sign for him to take his drunk ass to sleep. He just kept dialing the wrong number, further incriminating himself. Ramsey apparently thought he was calling his friend Jesse. He identified himself as Tommy and left 3 messages. What help would the bogus name be when the police can still track the phone and the phone call back to him and make the connection between him, his friend, and his son? It's a $5,000 hit on him. That's very fatherly of you. Ramsey reportedly said in one of 3 voicemail messages left on October 13th, 2022, that was a Thursday, "I don't give an F where he's at or what he's doing or who he be with. Kill that expletive." Ramsey's second message was blank, just him slurring, breathing heavy on the phone. "It's business. This ain't BS," he allegedly said in a third voicemail in which he asked his friend to call him back ASAP. What could his son have possibly done to have him in such an uproar? Did he get all drunk up and his boy had to put the hands on him? This doesn't sound like a normal big piece of chicken type of dispute. Budget dumpster employees discovered the voicemails the following morning, Cleveland.com reported. How many times did they play it back before they turned it over to the cops? The caller ID information displayed Ramsey's name and phone number. This is why that whole Tommy bogus name business was never going to work in the first place. Cuyahoga County Common Pleas Court Judge David Mattia, that's a mouthful, who read transcripts of the messages out loud in court, issued the maximum possible sentence for the aggravated assault charge. The outlet reported Ramsey had initially been charged with 2 counts of complicity, which carried a potential life sentence. Can you imagine them coming to pick this guy up and he can't remember what he was mad about? He doesn't remember making a phone call. Definitely can't even remember what he said. Then they start throwing around potential life sentence. Yeah, next time, sleep it off, big dog. Prosecutors alleged that Ramsey believed he was calling a friend who was a member of a motorcycle club. The friend denied knowing about the murder for hire plot and reportedly told investigators that he wouldn't have done it, rightfully so. Gee, thanks, pal, for having law enforcement looking at his friend crazy. Like, why would he call him specifically about a hit job if his friend didn't know a thing or two about hit jobs? Friends, how many of us have them? According to a report from local CBS affiliate WOIO, Ramsey told police he had gotten into an argument with his son recently and had made the call after drinking. I told you he put the pause on him. It should never have happened. Ramsey reportedly said, I can admit I was not being a father. I never hurt my children. I die before I let anything happen to my children. That's my baby boy. He also reportedly said, telling Matthias that he didn't believe the plan would actually be carried out, the Cleveland.com story said. What's wild to me is why would he even put that type of energy out there? Because if something would have really happened to his son, he would have never been able to live it down, and he would have had to spend the rest of his life in jail behind it. Ramsey's son did not participate in his father's prosecution, being a bigger man than he is, especially after trying to get your own son whacked. Local Fox affiliate WJW reported at the sentencing hearing, Matthias, reportedly reading from a pre-sentence investigation report, noticed that Budget Dumpster's vice president first called Cleveland police, but they were less than helpful. The vice president was told to reach out to the FBI, who the judge said was also less than helpful. The company finally turned to the police in Westlake, some 15 miles west of Cleveland. What type of piss poor police work is going on in Cleveland that they couldn't at least took up the reins and then handed it to the FBI? For all we know, this could have really happened and somebody could have got away with it. Here's another one for you. Inmate accused of trying to hire hitman to kill her family for $2 million inheritance. What's the rush? If the $2 million is guaranteed to be hers, why would she start spending it before she even get her hands on it? I just wait them all out. I got time. A woman jailed in Florida for threatening to kill her former co-workers at Disney. Just angry, allegedly tried to hire her fellow inmates to kill her parents and grandparents for a $2 million inheritance. First off, there's nothing fellow about an inmate that'll sell you out quick for an extra tray on the line or a day off their sentence. Nope. Tarigua Inaro, 29, from Orlando, has been locked up since December and recruited her cellmates in the murder for hire plot, according to law enforcement. Osceola County Sheriff Marco Lopez told the station WESH that the woman told her two fellow inmates that her parents were wealthy and she would receive a $2 million inheritance upon their deaths, according to an affidavit. She's in jail talking about she's rich. They probably thought she was nuts. And if you're looking for a hitman that's already locked up, you're not looking for a very good hitman. Jailed Tarigua Inaru, and I know I'm butchering her name, 29, allegedly offered her cellmates $50,000 per victim to have her parents and grandparents killed. The 29-year-old also allegedly used social media to cyberstalk Assistant State Attorney Peter Francis Donnelly, who was prosecuting her case. She said she wanted him to suffer and didn't care if his family died too, according to the court filings. $2 million is a considerable amount of money to live on, but not if you're going to give most of it out settling scores with anybody that pissed you off. She was quoted as allegedly saying that if she could not find anyone to carry out the killings, she would gladly do it herself. Sheesh. Instead of taking Inaru up on her offer, her cellmates alerted a corrections officer to the homicidal plot. The inmates told investigators that Inaru gave them instructions on how to make the murders look like a robbery gone wrong. She was in the county jail shopping for a whole hitman among people who was probably in there for traffic tickets and stealing Amazon packages. In January, the sheriff's office sent an undercover detective posing as an inmate into Anaru's jail cell. The woman allegedly talked to the cop about her antipathy towards the prosecutor, but denied trying to hire a hitman. During a subsequent interview with the investigators, Anaru allegedly admitted to plotting to have her family wiped out. I want them all dead. Anaru claimed that her mother and father molested her and her siblings when they were children, and there might be something to that. But one of her family members told cops that she needs mental health help. There might definitely be something to that also. From the way she's been acting from the very beginning, from threatening her coworkers to trying to get her family clipped and even cyber stalking the prosecutor, I'm starting to think she doesn't have a $2 million inheritance. Maybe she just legitimately needs help. The 29-year-old was charged Monday with 3 counts of solicitation to premeditated murder and 1 count of cyber stalking for allegedly sending death threats to Donnelly. During her initial court appearance this week, Anaru asked the presiding judge to state his name, and when he did, she replied with a smirk, "Good to know." I think it's safe to say she won't be coming home for a very long time. March 29th, 2023, half cast 424, episode 424, let's go. Of course, I have a few things to share with you guys, an evening of reflection. Shall we? Police officers say they have arrested a woman who was running an unlicensed cosmetic surgery recovery home near Miami International Airport after finding 8 convalescing women and medical waste inside her residence. You heard right, folks. They said medical waste in a residence, not even a facility. This was happening in someone's house. And as soon as I heard near Miami International Airport, all I could picture was somebody's stitches shaking loose to the sound of every takeoff and landing. Mydelis Sanchez, 38, was charged with felonies that include operating an assisted living facility. This was not a facility. This was somebody's crib without a license, and illegally disposing hazardous waste. Court records show the Miami-Dade County woman has bonded out of the Turner Guilford Night Correctional Center with bail totaling $13,500. First off, there's no way that place was properly sterilized, and you're dealing with a group of people who have little more than open wounds. So this is what happens when you're operating an unlicensed, illegitimate medical facility. You can't connect to the proper professionals, the couriers that come out and take out the medical waste, the needles, and all the one-time use objects that are supposed to be disposed of properly. According to a police report, the Miami-Dade Police Department's human trafficking unit got a tip Tuesday that an unknown woman from another state had cosmetic surgery and was being held against their will in an apartment at 7711 Northwest 7th Street, Sanchez's permanent address. There was 8 women in this apartment. When detectives arrived, they found 8 women in different stages of post-operative recovery. For some reason, I can't shake the image of Bride of Frankenstein. The women told detectives that the owners and employees of the facility had helped them with their personal care, including dressing and eating, as well as medication, transportation, and using the bathroom, investigators said in a report that was later confirmed by 3 of Sanchez's employees who said they were being paid in cash. Police noted this is shady all the way around. The women also said they had been charged between $1,600 and $2,100 for the services they received. If you've had legitimate cosmetic surgery, or if you just know the business, reach out, because I want to know if that $1,600 to $2,100 that they were charging for their services would have been enough for them to hire a legitimate facility, a facility that was on the up and up. Because here's what's confusing people at this point is it seems like associated with cosmetic surgery, there's just a whole lot of unnecessary risk being taken. The medical waste detective said was being illegally dumped at 12420 Southwest 95th Terrace, a house near Kendall. They was just putting it in some poor guy's garbage. Police noted Sanchez wasn't using biohazard bin containers, probably didn't want to attract any attention, nor did she hire a licensed biohazard waste company to remove the soiled bandages and pads. Of course, she's not going to put a bunch of medical waste bins with the big biohazard sign outside of her apartment and tip the world off that she's running some sort of shady operation. And naturally, no business is going to put themselves at risk picking up her medical waste because you don't know what she's running out of that place. She's not licensed. On Tuesday afternoon, police arrested Sanchez at her apartment. They didn't call it the medical facility this time and took her to the Turner Guilford Knight Correctional Center. Her attorney information wasn't available Thursday afternoon. You know she's going to have a lawyer. She got cash money. Her first formal appearance in court on the charges is set for April 27th. Sanchez, police said, had previously received 3 notices of unlicensed activity from the Florida Agency for Healthcare Administration. Any facility in the state that provides assistance to people with their daily personal care, including dressing, toileting, feeding, and grooming, must be licensed. And the obvious reason for that is that in the event that post-op something goes wrong, they go into sepsis, they have some type of odd reaction, they need to know that somebody's a licensed professional that'll be able to take care of these people and administer the proper care. Ex-Alabama cop indicted on accusations he killed his pregnant girlfriend, then called 911 claiming she shot herself. He couldn't have been a very good cop and definitely not detective material, because the instant he would have told me that she shot herself, I would have immediately known that he did it or he had something to do with it. David McCoy is charged with 3 counts of capital murder in connection with the death of Courtney Spraggins and her unborn baby. Let's tell him what he's won. In Alabama, that'll get you the death penalty. It doesn't even need to be unanimous. You only need 10 out of 12 jurors. But if you're thinking like I'm thinking, he might try to check out earlier than that. A former police officer in Huntsville, Alabama, has been indicted by a grand jury for allegedly killing his pregnant girlfriend last January and then telling 911 dispatchers that she fatally shot herself, authorities said. David McCoy was indicted on 3 counts of capital murder in connection with the death of Courtney Spraggins and her unborn baby, according to the March 24th indictment obtained by WHNT TV. There's absolutely no understandable way for him to justify what he did to that woman. And it was his baby. He killed his own child. And what makes it so bad to me, what's especially disgusting, is she probably didn't even realize she was in any type of danger until it was too late. McCoy is expected back in court on April 4th. Investigators allege McCoy shot Spraggins in the head while both were inside a parked vehicle on January 7th, 2022, WAFF TV report. Because she was in such close proximity to him, that's why I believe she didn't know that she was in that type of danger, that he kind of sprung it up on her. McCoy allegedly tested positive for gunshot residue, and police said they found a pistol that was not his service weapon and Spraggins' lock phone in a closet in his apartment, reports WLTX-TV. The outlet reports that McCoy allegedly changed his clothes before officers arrived and contacted the Huntsville Police Department's non-emergency line asking if any calls of a shooting had been reported. He's not very bright at all, and I'm thankful for it. Because no matter what type of relationship they had, neither that woman nor her unborn baby deserved to go out like that. McCoy was arrested and placed on administrative leave from the Huntsville Police Department. They didn't fire him after the shooting. A motive for the alleged violence has not been made clear. There is no motive that will justify what he did to that woman and her unborn child. Never. Prosecutors are reportedly seeking the death penalty in this case. According to WLTX TV, People wasn't immediately able to identify an attorney who could comment on McCoy's behalf. What is an attorney really going to say? At least that administrative leave will give him enough time alone to do some thinking and some soul searching and maybe eventually put his service pistol in his mouth and do the hokey pokey. Back to Jersey. Oxycodone and meth mailed to Keensburg woman to sell, police say. It must be a hard time for drug dealers when they're mailing out dope on the honor system. I trust you. Just cash at me what you make when you make it. Union Beach and Keensburg police announced Friday the results of a joint investigation. Did they really need two precincts for this? Where they say methamphetamine and oxycodone were being shipped from Arizona to a woman in Keensburg. It was revealed that an interstate drug trafficking operation originating from the state of Arizona to the Bayshore area was active. Union Beach police posted Friday morning to their Facebook account. You arrested one woman. Can you really call it a drug trafficking operation if you only got one person? You need two precincts for that. During the course of the investigation, Keensburg and Union Beach police determined that packages of methamphetamine and oxycodone were being discreetly packaged, not discreetly enough apparently, and mailed to a Keensburg resident for distribution. Officers were able to obtain a search warrant and successfully intercept the methamphetamine and oxycodone. The woman, Maureen Roberts of Keensburg, was charged with multiple drug offenses, including intent to sell the drugs. I was expecting to see some federal charges packed in there, be it that this was an interstate contraband type of deal, but they did say additional charges are pending. Potential additional charges are pending. See, Keensburg police involved in this case. Captain of Police Michael Deeney, Captain of Police Brian King, Lieutenant Joseph Jankowski, Sergeant Joseph Braheny, Detectives Francis Wood, Thomas Sheehan, Michael Sheehan, and Patrolman Anthony Valle. Union Beach police involved. Detective Sergeant Sean Gilkison, Detective Ryan Fogarty, Detective Matthew Dykeman, and Patrolman James O'Toole. That's a hell of a lot of manpower to arrest just one person out of a drug operation. That commendation doesn't seem quite as big when you got to split it between 12 people. March 31st, 2023, half-cast 425, episode 425, let's go. Of course, I have a few things to share with you guys. An evening of reflection.
When I'm walking the place
Shall we?